Hundreds of men accused of belonging to a Venezuelan criminal gang have been released from a high-security prison in El Salvador. Now they've been sent to Venezuela in a prisoner swap between Caracas and Washington. 10 Americans held by Caracas were also released in the exchange.
Deported from the United States and imprisoned in El Salvador, these Venezuelans are now back in their homeland. They were caught up in the Trump administration's immigration crackdown and spent several months in a maximum security Salvadorian jail, accused of being gang members. Venezuela's president celebrated the arrival of his citizens.
The first plane has just landed, with the 252 Venezuelans rescued and freed from Nayib Bukele's concentration and torture camps in El Salvador. There come our Venezuelan boys who were kidnapped, disappeared, tortured, and after 125 days, we rescued them. Freedom, freedom, freedom.
Libertad, libertad, libertad.
In exchange, Venezuela released 10 Americans. Here they are, being received by the Salvadorian president, who first proposed the swap months ago.
We've been in these negotiations trying to set you, all of you, free, but also 80 political prisoners from Venezuela. So over there, we secured the release of 80 political prisoners and all American citizens that were also held prisoners too.
The complex prisoner swap bolsters Bukele's image as one of Trump's closest allies in the region.
All right, well, for more on this topic, I'm joined here in the studio by our correspondent in Venezuela, Oscar Schlenke. Great to have you here in Berlin, Oscar. So this prisoner swap was quite complex, to say the least. How much influence does El Salvador's President Bukele have in the region now?
Well, he's actually been called an influencer in the past because he rose to power through the power of social media. And he has quite a bit of influence because a lot of people do find him as a revolutionary and turning El Salvador, which was ridden by violence from gang members, into one of the safest places in South America. However, a lot of NGOs, journalists, and activists have said that there have been serious human rights violations in El Secot, in this high-level prison that he has constructed in El Salvador.
Now, we're talking about a pretty sizable number of people here who are involved in this prisoner swap. Who are they? Who are the people in this prisoner swap?
Well, these 252 Venezuelans that were returned to Venezuela, among them 7 children that were separated from their families that were deported. A lot of these 252 prisoners in El Salvador were not criminals, as they've been alleged to say. And there's been tons of journalistic investigations and allegations from their lawyers and their families. They were in an irregular, illegal situation with their immigration status in the U.S., but they weren't serious criminals. Most of them. And the 10 Americans and U.S. residents that were returned to the U.S. Were mostly also just tourists visiting Venezuela at the moment and that were detained. These people were pretty much political tokens used for these political negotiations that we've seen and that have been done very discreetly. But I also have to mention that at least 80 political prisoners in Venezuela are said to be freed. We've only counted a fraction of that. And there are still at least 800 political prisoners in Venezuela still in prison. So there is still quite a way to go in this negotiation.
Now, the Trump administration has taken a very different direction with its migration policy, as we know and as we've spoken about. How is it seen in Venezuela, where you're based?
Well, I think they see it as a very strong political tactic to stop immigration flowing into the U.S., and it has been successful in stopping, for example, the flow of immigrants going through the Darien, this very dangerous place that's a jungle that a lot of Venezuelans have been killed and has promoted human trafficking. But at the same time, the way that these deportations are being made do really raise a lot of questions about human rights violations and how Venezuelans are treated. And also the reputation of Venezuelans in the U.S. has been dramatically impacted by the way these deportations have been going on.
Yeah, let's talk about those Venezuelans actually in the United States. You know, how the impact on them psychologically must be quite profound, right?
Definitely. Most of them that are in a legal status or are residents of the U.S. voted for Trump because they thought Trump would be sort of a savior or somebody that would really be against the Maduro administration. But what we've seen is that there have been negotiations behind the scenes, very discreetly, with the Maduro administration to do these prisoner swaps. And also, that's been one of the communities that has been mostly attacked by the Trump administration as being part of this Tren de Agua gang members and deported to El Salvador, which raises a lot of questions and public backlash because of how it's been done.
Oscar, it's great to have your insights and great to have you here in Berlin in the studio and not talk to you from across the other side of the Atlantic. Oscar Schlenke, DW's correspondent in Venezuela.
Thank you. It's great to be here.